popular culture often describes love as falling in love, like what Edmund shared just now, right? Fall is a verb, it's an action word. You all know it, right? It means to go from a higher place to a lower place, right? Usually in an out-of-control fashion. For example, we say, be careful, or you could, fall down the stairs. Like just when I'm climbing out, so I scared. Come up first a bit earlier so that I don't fall down. In fact, fall is also used as a word we use to describe times where we feel like we have been cheated or suckered or got the short end of the stick, right? Sometime in our lives, unfortunately, we have to say, I can't believe I was so stupid to fall for that, right? I hope no DBS or OCBC or, if you hear a Chinese sounding, then just gap, okay? So you know, right? We can't believe this fall, right? So we use that word that way. So popular culture talks about love as something we fall into, describing love as a feeling that we're being subjected to, as a state of being that we are somewhat powerless against, right? In that worldview of love, love comes upon you, and you either have it or not. You can't do much about it, understand? But interestingly, how the Bible talks about love, it does it slightly differently. It's not a state of being that we are powerless against. Love instead is presented as a command. We are commanded to love. John 13:34. A new command, this is Jesus speaking, a new command I give you, love one another. As I've loved you, so you must love one another. So the premise, that's opening only. So the premise we start with is that love is an action that can be commanded. Like in army, my officer can command us to march, right? Left, right, left, right. Or in a live firing range in army, they command you to fire, and you just bang, 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 right? Or my favorite, those of you army one, my favorite, your superior, usually your encik, right, can command you to run and touch the training shed. Got touch or not? Nobody touch training shed before? Have lah, right? Okay, see some nodding heads, like bad memories, right? You're very repressed. So anyway, just as we can be commanded to march, to fire, and to run and touch the training shed, simply because we can act on those commands, right? To love as a command must mean that love is an act of will, right? You can carry it out. You can carry it out. It's not just something that you fall powerlessly into. So that's my first premise, right? Love is an action, something that you can act on. It's not just something that you fall into. There's another premise I want to touch on as well, is that there's a common issue around love in action where we think about the idea that loving intentions alone are enough, right? Loving intentions alone are enough. So, for example, just I talk about guys, now talk about the ladies. So, example, some of you ladies invite your BFF, best friend forever, FFF, best friend forever, ever, all right, ever. You invite her to go for a high tea, I don't know, where's nice? Somewhere nice, Goodwood Park, high tea, okay? Then you were there you are there on time. Then you waited for 30 minutes already, right? You wait there very patiently, eat some pastry. Then after you say, something wrong, then you text her. Then you realize she's on the way, right? On the way. Then how do you feel? Like you're on the way, friend. She's on the way, man. Okay? In case I brought back some bad memories in some of you, I want to calm you down and suggest that she has no bad intention, okay? She lovingly accepted your offer to meet. She even found time to, accept that time and fix a time, right? But the will, the action to execute that loving acceptance was just slightly lacking, right? Good intentions, nevertheless. Is that enough for you? Can, right? Forgive her and carry on? No, right? You'll be upset, right? My point is, while there's some truth to the adage, it's the thought that counts, right? I would like to add that thought can count, but actions can multiply. I even created a meme for that. If you like it, like and subscribe. No, just talking about but you get the idea. My point is, thoughts can count, but actions are more powerful, right? Actions are more powerful. So, can you take that away? A bit embarrassing, but this crowd. So, having clarified love as an action and the need to go beyond intention, we are at the starting point, right? The message today is my humble thesis on how love in action should look like and what love in action can do. Okay? Can, So I read you the text. 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, Love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. But when I become a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Right? Before I go further, let's pray. God, I ask, Lord, that you use me today as your mouthpiece to share your word, a word in season for each of us here. That, Lord, as we talk about love in action, we'll understand the great love you have for us, and may we feel convicted to put this love into action as well, Lord. I ask that, Lord, you help me to be clear, and you allow each hearer here today to let the message not just fill their minds or tickle their minds, but that it will move them to act as well. All this, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Okay, so I've given it's a long text. I've summarized it and given some headers to it. I've given the headers in the text. You can find it in your sermon outlines, okay? So there are three topics, and I have 1 point on each of them, 3 big categories, okay? So my first point today is love in action trumps gifting, right? I want to start today by talking about the background to this chapter 13, right? In the chapter before, in chapter 12, Paul was talking about gifts, right? So it's useful for us to see the context where Paul brought up this topic of love, right? It was on a backdrop of talking about gifts, your talents, and God-given competencies, right? So the text is 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in tongues of man or of angel, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong, a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge. If I have a faith, I can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. So you can see here, like what I've summarized there, Paul was highlighting to the Corinthian church the futility of gift without love. Clear, right? Very clear from the text. The context was that the church in Corinth, they were super excited about gifts, right? They were seeking these gifts out, and they were comparing themselves, right? What gift you have. You can prophesy or you can speak in tongues or all these things, right? To be clear, Paul didn't tell them to stop this pursuit. He didn't tell them that, oh, these are wrong, don't pursue them. He's not saying don't pursue the gifts. He's actually saying in 1 Corinthians 13 to highlight that pursue them for the right reasons, to use the gift to better love the people around you. To make it abundantly clear, 1 Corinthians 14, verse 14, he says, follow the way of love and eagerly desire the gifts of the Spirit, right? So it kind of makes sense. So Paul is telling them, you need to do both, right? You need to love, or you need to seek the gifts, and understand that he needs to act out of love, follow the way of love. And it makes sense that Paul asked them to do both of them, right? Because God never intended Christian living to be a solo sport, okay? It's a team sport. It is not tennis. Any of you play tennis? It's not tennis. It is more like soccer, or maybe like rugby, very messy one. You just go there and everybody run for something. Okay, so it's more like a team sport. It's not a one-man talk show. It's more like an orchestra, right? Many diverse instruments and players are needed to put the performance or the game together. Okay? So Romans 12, 4-5 is Paul makes it clear here as well. For just as we have many members in one body, and all the members do not have the same function, so we, who are many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another. My point here is that we all have different gifts, different gifting, right? It's most obvious when we see others do something effortlessly, and we know that you'll either be painfully effortful or plain impossible for us. Understand? Got this kind of scenario before? Right? If you don't have, I'll give you one example. Right? Example, last time when I was in the same CG as brother Yang Yi, right? Yang Yi, he I don't know if he's here, right? You know Yang Yi, right? It was really nice. If you don't already know, Yang Yi is a great musician. He has perfect pitch. You know what's perfect pitch? You go and press the keyboard, right? If I go and press the keyboard, you know what happened? Keyboard was spoiled, no. I'll press the keyboard, let's say I press C. Then I tell him, hey, blind test, you tell me what's that? I think C, okay, then D or something like that. So, perfect pitch, right? And he sings very well, right? If you've not heard him, he was in the choir, he sings really well, can harmonize. And on the guitar, he can do magic, right? Magic show, no lah. He can do magic. So we never truly have to worry about CG worship then. As a CGL, our roster people to lead worship and rehearse. We will roster, we will rehearse. But deep down, I know that no matter how difficult, how we struggle during the worship rehearsal, how we monkey around, when Yang Yi just walked through the door, words come to us, just pass to him. Yang Yi, worship. Then, okay already, he will bring down the angels onto earth and will render beautiful worship to God. And in fact, Yang Yi is so good that these pictures you see here, right, these are photos from his busking competition, right? He was busking with his friend, and he joined a competition by DBS Bank sometime back. The guy with the guitar and singing, right, that one is Yang Yi, right? And in case you're wondering, they won the competition. What do you expect? They won this competition also because it's so good, right? So I mean, sometimes we despair. I'm not sure about you. Sometimes I despair and beat ourselves up for not being gifted enough, right? We all wish that we can be talented like Yang Yi in this, right? Right? But I submit to you that it is not a weakness to not have a certain gift. In fact, it is grace of God to not put everything in one person. It is a part of God's brilliant design to make all of you have a part of the puzzle so that we come together, right? And you all have your parts and others have theirs. The lack of certain gift is not the part to worry about. Now I need to tell you what you need to worry about. You need to worry about the part where you have the gift, something that God has given you uniquely, right? You must think of what you want to do with that so that the orchestra doesn't have missing instruments, right? I say this particularly because you have choices to make, right? You have choices to make. Matthew 5:45. He causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. Here, the context is that Jesus was teaching about loving your enemies. He was teaching about loving your enemies. While he was doing that, he revealed the kind of God that we serve, right? God isn't the kind of God that say, I like you, then I give you everything. Don't like you, you get nothing. No, interestingly, the God we serve provides for, gives rain to the righteous as well as the unrighteous, right? In the same way, gifts and talent are given to the righteous and the unrighteous. You have seen extraordinarily talented musicians, Christian or non-Christian, correct? Tell me your favorite artist. I tell you it's not Hillsong, right? I know you're not definitely unlikely that it's Hillsong or Planet Shakers, right? Just saying, right? You understand this, that there are extraordinarily talented musicians out there, right? Christians or non-Christians. You have met extraordinarily successful people, Christian or non-Christians, right? So, and back to our context, coming back again. To Christians, the gifts given to you can be used in the church as well as outside the church. Get my point? What you have, what God has put in you, can be used in the church as well as outside the church. And you have to choose how you want to use those gifts, right? We talk about an example of musician. You are exceptional, you are a great musician. You can audition for Singapore Idol, a long time ago, but okay. But anyway, example you can audition for something whatever that thing is, and then you can burn your weekends, or you can go and do some gigs and make money on the weekends, right? This is the gift that God has given you. Or you can choose to serve in the church worship team and usher in God's presence for all of us, right? And stand here and rehearse and take a lot of your time, and you are not remunerated, so to speak, right? That's a choice, right? Or you all are still with me, right? I feel like nobody looking at okay, can I? You still with me, Okay, so for example, the next example, if maybe you are articulate, can speak, okay? Analytical, and can read and write well. You can choose to be a successful lawyer, make a lot of money as a law firm partner, and enjoy the prestige and power that comes with it. Or you can choose to obey God, take a pay cut, and be humbled as you take on a role that will stretch you more than anything you have tried before, like becoming a senior pastor. I'm talking about Pastor. Okay, but I think at this point it's appropriate that we celebrate the gift that God has given Pastor and his obedience and choice to use it to serve us for the past 20 years and going strong. Okay, y'all can clap. Where's he? I don't know. He was there the morning one. Okay, can. Y'all get the idea, right? Okay, my point here is that having those gifting, be it music or intelligence or dashing good looks, Why? Just say only what? Are nice, right? These things are nice. But love in action, putting those gifting to use to serve others in the church, it trumps having those gifts, right? It trumps gifting. None of us, most of us will not have to take such drastic steps as I've shared about Pastor Dad, right? To put our love into action. But it remains that each of you have gifting, right? Love in action means that you actively choose to use those gifting and talents to build up the church. I'll give you some example, in case some example. First, if you are good at administration, you have an eye for detail. You know what's the most important ministry in church or CG now? It is to become the birthday IC. How many of you have missed? Okay, I don't know. Birthday IC, right? Don't miss people's birthday, right? Don't miss their birthday. And I also want to say, in case yours has been missed, it's just I'm sorry. The point is, you just need the correct gifting, right? So if you are good at administration, do it so that we can love and build up the church, right? And don't leave church if yours is forgotten. We'll buy you a meal later. Okay? So, the other example, if you're good at music, talk about it already, right? You can play, you can sing, you can play, you piano grade 8 one. Okay, then you go and audition for the worship team, right? Then you can serve us. Or you love to eat and talk about food. You have a reputation. Your friends all come to you for food lobang one. Then you don't complain that your CGL, like me, the plan Sunday not good the restaurant too expensive, not food, not nice. You plan you plan the Sunday outings and bring people to go on food trips to eat nice food. Use your gifting, right? You got a lot of energy and muscles. Then you join the setup team. Talk about it a lot already, right? Or this one, I just got a new plug. You got nerve of steel and can perform at high pressure environment, just like Maverick can do 10G. You know, right? Sorry. Okay, but anyway, if you have nerves of steel, you can join the media team, right? They put all these slides together and they click. It's a very stressful one, right? So just now, Patricia asked me to specifically mention. So Patricia, I plug already, put inside already, okay? Yeah. Okay, so or are you the kind who go to family gatherings and your niece and nephew cannot get enough of you one, That kind, that they always want to play with you. You are the niece and nephew killer, the saso, Then you can join the Sunday school. We have a great need, right? I think you already know. Oh, this one my favorite. There's some of you here, right, got what I call the 人见人爱 face.人见人爱. Don't be shy. Surely God has gifted some of us here with a welcoming face. That kind, 人见人爱, 花见花开, hear me? Lorry 看到停下来载 that kind. If you are that kind, then you come. You be an usher. You be an MC. Go to www.brighton.sg/get-involved. Get involved. Put my promo code so that I get some points. Okay. No promo code, but please get involved. Okay. So my point here is love in action means you eagerly desire whatever gift that God has given you, and then you want to hold it and use it to serve one another. Right? Will it cost you? The answer is yes, it will. Don't be surprised. It's going to cost you because this gifting that God has graciously given you will have value outside of the church as well, right? And love in action, I submit to you in today's context, will mean that you actively choosing to express this gifting to serve one another and strengthen the church, right? Love in action trumps gifting. So put your gifting to work in the church, put love into action. First point. Okay, so far so good. Okay, second point. Love in action transcends logic, right? Paul spelled out many different characteristics of love in I think, verse 4 to 8. So within this, I hope to point out one area, just one, right, where, in my observation, is the major hurdle to our putting love into action. So from verse 4 to 8, there are many qualities, many aspects, which we will not cover everything, but I have put together a small table for completeness sake. It will be useful for your CG discussion, right? You can look at it and talk about this love in attributes of love. But I'll focus on one. Love doesn't keep record of wrong, right? Love doesn't keep record of wrong. As I hope to point out a nuance therein that I think is most relevant to our church today. So the text is 1 Corinthians 13:5. Love, it does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrong, right? Keeps no record of wrong in the Greek text is on the screen. I I'm not going to read it, right? It's too chim already. But the operative word here is logizomai, the one that I highlighted, logizomai. Translated, keep account, right? Love does not keep account of wrong, right? Keep account. It more literally means, it's translated keep account. More literally, it means to count or to calculate, right? To count or to calculate. In fact, logizomai, it shares the same root as our modern English word. Come make a guess. Logizomai. Try lah. Nobody want to try? Okay, it's what? Logic. Wow, very good. You watched the morning one, right? No, okay. Yeah, it shares the same root word as our English word logic. Yes. So the line here literally is saying love doesn't calculate, right? The text itself. Love transcends logisming, right? Love transcends logic, and that's the point here. And I submit to you that isn't this often at the core of what is hindering us, you and me, from putting our love into action? Our God-given logical mind that's so capable of calculating and being calculating, right? As 21st century human being living in Singapore, we need everything to be logical, to be computable. I'll give you some examples. You want to do the cost-benefit analysis to make sure that the positive outweighs the negative before you act on anything, right? Correct or not? Today you take taxi or, okay, never mind. Take taxi or Grab, whatever. You decided, you calculate, you go and check, right? But example, when you buy a car, right, you count what? The insurance cost, the maintenance cost, the tax, the financing cost, and of course, the hot topic today, you count the petrol cost, right? I want to tell you, I saw Jimmy already. Now the petrol price so high, Jimmy Chan, our friendly neighborhood traffic police, always send to our driver group chat, this group chat, the latest petrol prices increase. Always spoil my day one. It's like, you're going to see, what? It's like, but anyway, but this is normal behavior. I look at Jimmy's chart, right? I have already switched from SPC, to Caltex, and then back to SPC. I'm not telling you why here, but very complicated. But nevertheless, what happened was, I calculated and I switched to save my petrol expense, right? So that's what we do, right? And for the students among us, maybe in the morning, maybe some of you are here, when you choose a course of study, which module to take, right? What career path, you also computed the likely return on investment, right? How long to promotion, what's the industry growth like, what you can learn, and how much money you can make. We do that. And even, I think this one, everybody here vaccinated, anybody not vaccinated? Cannot. I don't know now, still got the differentiated one, but assume vaccinated, right? You all check already. So how many of you, let me ask you, vaccinated, right? How many of you PPP one? You know what I'm talking about? PPP. Pfizer. So few? Wow. How many of you PPM one? Why you PPM? Okay, you know, right? PPM, Pfizer, Moderna. I PPM. Okay, I PPM one. I took my first 2 Pfizer shots at Geylang Serai, right? Very near my house, right? Then for my booster, I went to Tampines, about 20 minutes drive, because I wanted to take a Moderna. Why? Because at the time I was going on a work trip, right? Then that country was seeing rising cases, and in fact, when I went to the country later on, they were seeing like 600,000 cases a day, right? So that's why my point is that I calculated, I logismized, right? That it was worth it. That 20 minutes journey is worth at that time, just to be clear, it wasn't so common to be catching COVID, right? There was a lot of inconveniences that would have come had I caught it in the country that I went to or whatever. So I decided that PPM, Pfizer, Moderna, computed well. And I applied my computing mind, like many of you PPM people, right, to that. And then we took PPM, right? But the problem arises, I submit to you, when we insist on rigidly applying this computing mind to love. Can? Follow? So, example of when it doesn't compute, right? Experientially, we already know already. I guarantee you, nothing here will surprise you. That computation breaks down when it comes to love. We know, for example, that raising kids doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute, okay? I love my kids, Hello, if you're there, yeah. But you know, okay, I'm not going to expound on it because Pastor I talked about it a few times already. But that's one example, right? And so it doesn't really compute. I will use another example, right? That when we talk about buying flowers on Valentine's Day, how many of you do that? Buy flowers on Valentine's Day? Y'all don't? But I want to tell you that this is not common. It's just, we all know, right? There's just another day. The Valentine's Day concept must be a marketing gimmick. This sort of gimmick must be very obvious to us already, right? Because after all, we are already bombarded with Lazada every day, right? And then the latest one that I see, every time you turn on your devices, you see all the different ads, right? The latest one, Shopee, is like Shopee, beep, 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 beep. You have that one? Not yet, you need to get it. Then we know, because we have gone through all the 2-2 sale, 3-3 sale, 4-4 sale, 5-5, then 6-6, I bought this pair of shoes, right? 6-6 sales. So we know, every day is either Shopee day or Lazada day. Surely we are not going to fall for this special occasion gimmick, right? But I can tell you, thousands of intelligent young men compulsively buy flowers on Valentine's Day, all in the name of love. In fact, the Society of American Florists on their website estimates that 30% of all flowers, right, all flowers sold in a year is sold on Valentine's Day, right? Mathematically, computing, right? Mathematically, one day is 0.3%, slightly less even, right? 0.3% of a year. 30% is 100 times of 0.3%, okay? So just because the calendar flips, okay, it doesn't flip anymore, I know, or your iPhone, or your phone says 14 Feb, right? Suddenly, our propensity to buy flowers increases by 100%. It's truly amazing, right? But it happens, and by the way, just a plug, Father's Day only 2%, and everybody want to buy. Oh, okay. So whatever it is, coming back here, my point is that there are just some things that don't compute. It just doesn't compute as simply, And my thesis to you is that it need not. It need not. Okay? Why? I give you some examples. Romans 13:8 is Paul talking, writing, right? Let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. What Paul is saying here is that there's such a thing, right? There's such a thing as a debt of love that cannot be computed, right? It cannot be calculated one. It's a continuing one. It's not binary. It's not like 1 or 2, right? It's not so easy to compute. And he wrote about this he wrote in Ephesians 4:32, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. So here in Ephesians 4, if you look at your Bible, right, it will say that, the translator would have put in a subheader that usually it is instructions for Christian living. So Paul here is giving instructions for Christian living, right? And be compassionate, is translated from the Greek word use black nose, use black nose, right? I'm not putting it up there, but use black nose. The black nose, the second part, right, literally means your internal organs, your stomach, your intestine, I don't know what else is inside I don't know, not an anatomy expert, but it's from the inside. So what is translated, be compassionate, Paul is literally saying, let it come from your inside, your intestine, your guts, your stomach, your inside, right? So Paul is giving a clear call, talking about Christian living, to go beyond your minds. It's not just an intellectual exercise. Paul is saying, use black nose, right, when you relate to one another. Remember, he's giving instructions, commanding them to not just do the right thing, but have it flow out of your inner being, your guts, your intestine, your stomach, your kway-chap. Okay, no. So to put it all together, I'm trying to persuade you that for you and I to put love into action, we need to accept that it will not always compute. Your need for efficiency and perfect rationality will regularly be violated if you want to put love into action. We're going to discuss this on Friday. It's like your need for efficiency and perfect rationality will regularly be violated. Love in action doesn't calculate. It doesn't logism mind, right? To be clear, I'm not suggesting that the evidence for Christianity, particularly the resurrection, cannot be evaluated logically. I'm not saying that. It can be, right? And many bright people have done just that. And Pastor, I preached many sermons on that. What I'm saying, I'm not saying that Christianity is up to our subjective mind. What I'm saying, though, is that having logically evaluated the evidence and belief, your practice of Christian love, to put love into action, transcends a binary computation of whether that act makes sense logically or is profitable. I give some example. For example, do we really need all these things on stage? Do we need all this like whole worship band in a service, it's an incredible amount of work to set them up, I assure you. Worship with one guitar can already. Don't believe me? Just ask Yang Yi to come. Okay, it's true, right? It is true. We don't need the whole setup. It doesn't really compute to make so many people come so early to set up everything and just to use for a few hours and then tear everything down again, right? It's so inefficient, it doesn't compute, right? But Sunday service is not just an exercise to find the most efficient way to play some music, right? It is a community coming together to collectively tell God, God, I love you. It's an act of love. The more extravagant, the costlier it is to us, the louder it says to God, I love you. We love you. We want to celebrate you. So much so, we gladly pay the high price. If you can bring a 5-piece band, as we have here, we will. You can bring a full orchestra. We will, right, Alvin? Full orchestra. Where's Alvin? Hiding somewhere. But relax, God will provide. That's why these folks, the setup team, right, wake up early to carry these equipment week after week after week after week. They're trying to tell God, I love you. My time, my sleep, and my young daughter at home, they're precious. But God, you are my highest price, right? Next thing, do we really need to meet physically? Recently, got a lot of Grab surges. How many of you Grab surge? Probably not on Sunday, but every day, Friday, when you go to CG, right? It's so expensive to go anywhere, and especially to go and meet physically at the CG, right? Can't we just Zoom, right? Favorite, Zoom only $14 a month. Zoom also can get the discussion done, right? True. Zoom can help me communicate intellectually, right? I can express my mind to you. But being physically together, it is, use black nose, it is visceral, it's from the inside. For you to put love into action, to pay the Grab surges, just to see my face, to touch my hand, to eat my food, right? It doesn't just tickle my mind, right? It warms my heart, right? And my intestine and my stomach and all the other organs, right, from the inside. It is like the Valentine's Day roses that I talked to you about, right? Many young men understand it that the more they pay for it, however ridiculous it sounds, the more love the recipient feels actually, right? It doesn't compute. So to put love into action, we need to let it transcend our logical minds. Sounds like we're going to have some challenge this Friday, but it's okay. Let's talk about this, right? That we need to let it transcend our logical mind. We need to let it come from our hearts. We need to let it come from our inside. Be prepared to pay the Grab surges, right? To come to CG and physical service, whatever it is. I'm just giving an example of these, right? Practical things that we do on a weekly basis. It will not always be efficient or perfectly logical. But I want to show you that it is worth it as you put love into action. Can? You are quieter than I expect, but it's okay. I can carry on. The third point, right? The third point, my last point, right, is that love in action reveals Christ. As Pastor mentioned last week, we never really graduate from Christ, right? We never graduate from Christ. I wrote this before he said that, and I agree that I can't help but highlight that all that we do as Christians necessarily culminates in Christ. Love in action is the same. The beauty of putting love into action is that putting love into action reveals the beauty of Christ. So the text from 1 Corinthians 13, 12 to 13, right? For now, we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. The three great pursuits of Christian life are not miracles, power, and gifts, right? They are instead faith, hope, and love. Though these gifts are precious, they were never meant to be the focus or the goal of our Christian life. Instead, as Christians, we pursue faith, hope, and love. Paul closed his thesis, this chapter 13, on love, extolling the supremacy, praising, going exuberantly praising the supremacy of love. Everything will pass away except faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of this is love, right? To be clear, Paul was talking about gifts as the in the text, right? Talking about gifts as the partial revelation, right? While love, chapter 13, is the greater revelation. Seeing partial revelation as if looking through the mirror, greater revelation as if seeing face to face. Interestingly, after he talks about this, he couldn't help but launch into the celebration of Christ as the ultimate revelation. I shall know as I am fully known. This must be talking about Christ, right? So we'll explore both of these themes, these topics today, right? First part, Paul was a great writer. When he wrote about love, he connected with his readers, right? The Corinthians, talking about mirrors. Historians note that the city of Corinth, they are well known for their Corinthian bronze, okay? The bronze that Corinth produced, they have superior quality. In the ancient world, they're highly sought after as a material for architectural construction, like building a gate or a door, right? So if you want quality gate, I don't know, you all got gate, right? Go and buy from Corinth. Okay, and when you polish the bronze well, okay, polish the bronze that Corinth produced well, you get, what do you get? Aladdin come out, no. We polish a bronze surface well, you get mirrors. Okay, come. I see they're very stressful. On queue, right? They come. Okay, so this one that you see dates back to about 300 BC. This is on display at Israel Museum. It's about the size of your palm, and it would be the mirror that Paul has in mind when he writes that, right? It can't be the mirror you have at home, the IKEA one. Okay, my one IKEA. No, it can't be, right? Because it has not existence yet. Today, our mirrors are made of glass and a coat of aluminium, right? So your mirrors today are super clear one, high resolution TV, HD. But using a polished bronze surface, it's not perfectly flat. There's discoloration. So when you look in a bronze mirror, the mirror that Paul is talking about here, it's a bit blurry. You see imperfectly. You see in part, right? And that's where we are now, on this side of heaven. When it comes to our perception of Christ and the greater reality, we are seeing only a reflection, as in a mirror, blurry and incomplete. Clear? And when we are in heaven, we shall then see Christ face to face. I want to read you an excerpt from my children's Bible. This is an account of a blind man named Bartimaeus, found in Mark 10. Bartimaeus was blind, and the book described it this way. He couldn't see the sun, he couldn't see the trees, he couldn't see the houses, he couldn't see people, but Bartimaeus could hear. And one day, so Bartimaeus heard Jesus with the throng walking towards him, right? And he shouted to Jesus. Mark 10, verse 14 onwards, I'll read to you. Jesus stopped and said, call him. So they called him, the disciples, called to the blind man, cheer up, on your feet. He's calling you. Throwing his cloak aside, Bartimaeus, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. So then Jesus said, what do you want me to do for you? The blind man said, Rabbi, I want to see. And Jesus said, go, your faith has healed you. Immediately, he received sight and followed Jesus along the road. Right? Simple story, right? The children's Bible describes Bartimaeus receiving sight this way. Bartimaeus saw the sun, Bartimaeus saw the trees, Bartimaeus saw the houses, Bartimaeus saw the people, but best of all, Bartimaeus saw Jesus. Blind men met Jesus and received sight, and we would easily read it and think, yeah, that's a great miracle, he has his sight back. But best of all, Bartimaeus saw Jesus, face to face. Know in full as you're fully known. Each time I read this, I tear up a little. Of course, when I read this to my kids, right? It's like, wow, great story. I would suggest to you that all the efforts and resources that we are pouring into our striving, even that miracle that you are seeking, right? To jostle for a better job, better pay, bigger house, better this and that's that endless strive for a bit more, right? They are ultimately a quest for acceptance, significance, purpose. And all these needs, they will only be fully and finally be met when you shall know fully as you are fully known, when you finally see your loving Creator in Christ face to face. We have seen this at work in Luke 19, right? The life of Zacchaeus, the tax collector. Some of you must be familiar with this story, right? Zacchaeus, he was willing, in his quest for wealth, he was willing to pay a high social price, right? To be a tax collector. seen as a traitor and a villain, because it seems like they were working with the Roman occupiers to enslave the Jewish people, right? So that's Zacchaeus. But on that sycamore tree that he climbed to see Jesus, right? From there, having seen Jesus face to face, his priorities change entirely, right? He was prepared to give back all money that's cheated, right the wrongs that he have done, right? So that's the power of seeing Christ face to face. The question then is, how then does one see Christ face to face? Clearly, it should happen now when we go to heaven. Anybody planning on that soon? Okay, not yet. Okay, so not yet, okay. In the meantime, I suggest to you that we can reveal Christ to people around us too. And that is in how we put love into action. John 13, 34, 35, what I started with. This is Jesus speaking. A new command I give you, love one another. As I've loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. The goal of discipleship, we live in a society that doesn't do this apprenticeship, discipleship so much, right? But the goal of a disciple is to become like the master, right? Like the master. Here, after washing the disciples' feet, a task reserved for the lowest ranking servant, Christ told the disciples that, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. As we obey the command Christ gave to us here, to love one another, whoever sees you, the disciple, shall then see Christ, the master, revealed. Make sense? This begs the question, how will anyone know your love? How to see your love? How to see your love, right? The answer is, if they see it in action, you need to put it into action. You need to make it be visible. Your emoticon cannot see one. You must act out, right? So you need to put love into action. The practical question, the challenge that we need to, I pose to you, right? That I need you to ask yourself is that, does our life, your life, my life, does it reveal Christ? Looking at my life, your life, will anyone be able to see evidence of love to sufficiently conclude that you and I are disciples of Christ? If someone looks at how we relate to one another in church and compare it to a random other sample group outside, would it be apparent to them that we are Christ's disciples? Will they see the master through the disciples, you and I? Would your family see Christ in how you relate to your CG members, how you handle your finances, and more importantly, how you relate to them, your family members? Will they see evidence of generosity, hospitality, practical support, eagerness to honor others before self, regular acts of humbling self to wash one another's feet? Will they see that? There are many opportunities to review Christ. Let's get to the practical part, right? There are many opportunities to review Christ in the CG and in church, right? We can do various things, right? I give you a non-exhaustive list of examples, right? These are some simple things that you can do, right? You can honor one another's time by showing up on time. Sunday service, Friday CG, right? And we can generously you can be generous, buy meals. You can take out the rubbish, the lowly things, right? Christ can wash feet, we can take out rubbish. You can serve in a church ministry, you can support the community work, you can stand up to, love always protects, right? You can stand up to people when you hear them gossip carelessly, right? That this is unfair, this is not true, so on and so forth. You can forgive when people offend you, or, surely will offend you one. I guarantee will offend you at one point. So forgive me first, okay? Example, right? So all this, I submit to you, that when people see us do this to one another, when they look at us who claim to know this God of love, our actions should show them and reveal Christ to them, right? So these are my 3 points. I would like to summarize, close them all here in one place, right? My 3 points were, love in action trumps gifting. And I urge you to hone God's gift for you and to choose to use it to lovingly serve the church, right? It's going to cost you because it's precious outside, but use it to serve the church. Point 2, love in action transcends logic. Resist your urge to love only when it makes sense. It will not make sense. It need not make sense, right? So still carry out those acts of love even though the calculations might not make sense immediately. Love in actions reveals Christ. I urge you to love one another deeply, right? Knowing that this love doesn't just stop at you or me or the recipient. your love should have the ability to reveal Christ. That when people see you, the disciple, people see Christ, the master. Okay? Those are my 3 points. I'm going to close. I'll close my message today slightly differently with a Chinese poem. Chinese. Come, Chinese one. Okay. Wow, scared. I was so scared. Okay, this context. This poem describes a mountain scene that the author sees as he goes on a hiking journey. Can? 他爬山啊, alright, okay. So, I read to you first 啊。横看成岭侧成峰，远近高低各不同。不识庐山真面目，只缘身在此山中。Okay? Can 啊 Nobody understood anything, right? It's okay. Translate. Hey, next one, not yet. One more slide back. I got one more slide back. No, Okay. Never mind. This one. So I translate first the text, right? 横看成岭侧成峰，远近高低各不同. It means that looking from different angles, remember it's climbing a mountain, right? The Lu mountain looks different, right? I see here, I see a cliff. I see there, I see a peak, so on and so forth, right? No 2 parts are alike, right? So these are the first 2 lines. 横看成岭侧成峰，远近高低各不同。不识庐山真面目. It means that one can't quite make out the true shape of the Lu mountain, right? Right, on this journey. While you're on this journey, you're inside the mountain, you can't quite make out the true shape of the Lu mountain. 只缘身在此山中. But the author can conclude rightly that, yeah, I see. I'm right in this mountain. All right? So far, so good. Can understand, right? Chinese literature appreciation. Okay, class 101. Okay, next. Now I try to explain why I share this with you, not because I have Chinese literature appreciation. Okay, 横看成岭侧成峰，远近高低各不同. I submit to you that application here, the similarity that I will draw to you is that we are differently gifted, like my first point, right? We are differently gifted, and no 2 parts are alike. You have your part to play, I have my part to play, he or she has their parts to play, and we have to play those parts, right? 不识庐山真面目. On this journey, while we're still on this journey, we can't quite make everything compute clearly when you're on this love in action journey. Not every single thing will make sense, right? At this point. 只缘身在此山中. But know that just as the author says, he knows that he's in the mountain. As we carry out this love in action, we can know that we are in the embrace of Christ's love. Okay? So the author of the poem was on a journey scaling a mountain. Similarly, we are all on a journey of life, practicing putting love into action. We are all differently gifted. Let's use ours to grow the church, to serve the church. On this journey, as in the mountains, each step may not always be clear or fully logical, but don't let that stop you from moving ahead, right? Finally, know there is a great privilege to be on this journey. As the author proclaims that he is in the mountain, we know that we are inside the love of Christ. That's a privilege, right? May you be lost and found in the loving embrace of your Creator, the God of love, as you put love into action.